Hi, welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. This is kind of American Reversion late night edition. I've had a busy day, and this is the first chance that I've had to sit down and kind of collect things, put them together, and get ready to chat with you about them. For those of you who are new to our channel, we talk about what's going on with our country, what's wrong with our country, why it's going wrong, and maybe what we ought to do to change it back. We talk about wanting a reversion, not a resistance, or just resisting the things that are going on that we don't agree with, but an actual reversion, because we want to take them back to a time when we think they were right. And some people say, well, what in the world is that? What do you mean when things were right? Well, what I mean by that is that back when most people worked and thought that they should work, and when most people were honest and thought that they should be honest, when most kids were raised by two parents, when most people went to church, when most people believed in the basic standards and principles on which our government was based, when most people had an understanding on how our government was created and how our country was created and how it's supposed to work. Um, when most people were proud, for good reason, to be Americans, and when only a few of our politicians were uh, uh, dedicated to destroying our country, as opposed to most of them apparently today. So we're going to talk about that. I have some things. I'm sitting here. I'm relaxing and just to share with you. Now, those of you, I know a lot of you will catch us in the morning since I'm shooting this later at night. So this will kind of make you squirm, but I'm relaxing with a kind of a special thing that a friend of mine, I ran into a friend of mine a while back, and he's a customer of mine actually, but I consider him a friend. And he said that when he was down in Texas, he remembered that I liked wild turkey. And I even wrote about it in one of my books. I forget which one. And I made the statement that uh, that I drink Wild Turkey 86 on a daily basis, 101 celebrate, and then I included in there that something that a friend of mine had given me, and that was a bourbon called Eagle Rare. I'm a bourbon drinker. I'm not a Scotch drinker. Well, anyway, um, my friend, when he was down in Texas, he ran across something. He says he hasn't seen it up here, and that's too bad. And he picked up a bottle and brought it to me, and it is Wild Turkey Rare Breed. You see that? Rare Breed, and it is 116. So it's if I celebrate with 101, uh, with a 116, and for those of you who know what that means, you know the difference. Let me take a shot or just a sip here. You don't shoot this stuff. You enjoy it, and I will. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. I was amused. Apparently, um, about half of our country is going down into the ditch themselves and hoping to take the rest of us. And I just saw on the news today how the Democrats are so disgusted with their dear leader, who now I think has a a, a rating, um, a positive rating, right up there somewhere around herpes. And so they're concerned, right? They're concerned that they're going to be slaughtered in the next election, which they probably will be. But that also makes them dangerous. Who knows what they will do? Um, because they don't think like normal people. They'll always come up. You can't outguess them because they will always come up with stuff that you never would have thought of. But anyway, so they're worried and they're already thinking, towards the next presidential election. And now I see that they're floating a um, Hillary Clinton, Liz Cheney ticket. Now that could be that could be real or it could be Memorex. I mean, who knows? But that's how desperate they are, and they have good reason for it. We see it around us all the time, and I want to talk. So, one of the things that we do here, for those of you who haven't been with us before, is that we talk about the things that we can take to those people that we know, because the battle right now is the battle of ideas. It's the battle for hearts and minds. We have to convince more people in the middle, for the most part, and that's where the battleground is. We have to convince more people in the middle to to understand that the side for which they have been voting for a long time is destructive. It's destructive to them. It's destructive to the country. And it can be done. It can be done. Here's a good spot for me to interject what I've always said. For those people who said politics doesn't work, well, it works great for the other side because they do it better. And if you say that politics doesn't work, it's simply an excuse that you've already made up so that you don't have to try. Well, you know, the person, I'm not saying that to you personally, but the person who uses that excuse is not going to be a part of the fight. They're not going to be a part of the resistance or the reversion. They're not going to be a part of changing things for the better. They're just going to sit back and say, oh, it can't be done. It can't be done. And so they're of no help, and that's too bad. However, a lot can be done. A lot can be done when we take the facts to people who don't know the facts. It's amazing to me, and it may be amazing to you if you do the same thing, that so many of the people who put these morons in, when you let them know some truths with which they were previously unfamiliar, they have a head slapping moment. They say, well, I didn't know that. If I'd have known that, maybe I wouldn't have voted for him, her, whoever, right? And really the battleground is on the local level, because that's where it starts. So it's up to us. That's what we do. It's up to us to share this information with them. And in order to share it, we have to know it. And I think that passing things along like this and talking about them a little bit helps solidify them in our mind and gets us ready for the battle that we can look forward to tomorrow, when we run into those people who may not be aware of these idiocies going on in our country every day. Well, let's start here. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says, and we know that, they're not really they're not good, let me put it that way. United States Chamber of Commerce CEO Suzanne Clark says the USA ought to import twice as many foreign workers and provide amnesty to illegal aliens for the purpose of inflating the labor market, providing businesses with an endless flow of cheap labor and more consumers. Does that sound right to you? Do you think that would sound right to a lot of the people that you know? Probably not. Let me read that one more time, and let me see if I can get this. The lighting's a little low here, and if I'd have been smart, I'd have done this before now I can read that a little bit better. Let me read that one more time so that it gets into you, so you can be ready to share this with other people. Okay. The United States Chamber of Commerce CEO Suzanne Clark says the U.S. ought to import twice as many foreign workers and provide amnesty to illegal aliens for the purpose of inflating the labor market, providing businesses with an endless flow of employees and potential customers. What do you think about that? Is that something that you think your more moderate friends would be for? Because they won't be, and if you'll share that with them, you might start winning them over. Let's take a look at something else. Keeping that in mind, DHS. Now, this comes from, where does this come from? This comes from Breitbart. Where did that previous one? Let me see where that was. That's also from Breitbart. Breitbart carries a lot of good stuff. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, cannot account for 50,000 migrants released in 2021. These are the ones that when they catch them, they go, okay, now you did a bad thing. You broke into our country illegally. And of course, you shouldn't do that. Not that we really mind, but we have to say that we mind. So here's what we want you to do. We're going to give you this piece of paper, and we want you to come back here in a few months and talk with us about whether we should let you stay in our country since you're here unlawfully. And of course, what happens, right? What kind of ding dong would actually report back to the DHS? And they know that they're not serious anyway, so they know that they're really not breaking any further laws. They've already broken a law by coming into our country illegally. And to be honest, I don't really blame those people, because if I was down there starving and I needed to support my wife and children, and I knew that there was a country up here stupid enough to not only allow me in, but encourage me to come in and then give me all sorts of benefits while I was here illegally, I would think, this country is so stupid. It's almost a sin not to take advantage of them, right? Okay. Well, just keep that in mind when you're talking to that moderate or liberal person that tomorrow, that the DHS cannot account for 50,000 migrants released in 2021. Does that sound like it's good? Does that sound like a country? I was going to say that cared about it, but does that sound like a country at all? Not really. Now here we have Ron DeSantis. He's actually taken a stand on this. Florida has been a leader in a lot of things lately, and he has last month. DeSantis set forth 6 legislative proposals. Most significantly, the proposals include banning state and local agencies from doing business with any companies or non-governmental organizations that help facilitate illegal immigration. That shouldn't even have to be addressed. That should be a law anyway, don't you think? So you'll have people say, oh, DeSantis, he's a racist and all this. Well, what he's done is simply because the Chamber of Commerce wants to flood the labor markets to depress wages, to help businesses. So who does that sound like they're on the side of? Well, they're on the side of the big businesses. And they're not on the side of the mom and pop store down the block. They're on the side of the big businesses, right? So it's big guy against little guy in this. And they want to flood the labor market, which puts Americans out of work. And then the DHS can't find 50,000 a year, and I think that's a lowball figure. I think the figure is a lot higher than that. And DeSantis is just saying, well, you know what? We're not going to. We're going to ban state and local agencies from doing business with people who employ these things. That seems ridiculously easy to understand, right? Okay. Here's one for us. If we need further proof that our country's in a total decline, the FBI refuses to answer if it participated in the January 6th picnic up there in Washington, right? Maybe some of you heard Ted Cruz hammering the FBI. Who was up there? It was some assistant director. I forget her name. But he went back and forth. Can you tell us whether any FBI agents or informants were involved in the picnic on January 6th at the Capitol? Well, I can't answer that, she said. Well, can you tell us if any of them were involved in precipitating violence? Well, I can't answer that either. Well, he kept asking her about this, and she kept assuring him that she wasn't able to answer that. Well, okay, that's the tip of the spear for our law enforcement in our country, isn't it? And they can't answer that. Well, we know why. Well, they could answer it. We know why they won't answer it, because they were the instigators of that. They were the agents provocateur, as they have been in many other things. A couple of little things. Oh, Here's one. Here's the one that will get most of the moderates, not a lot of the liberals. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy vows to sign a bill expanding right to abortion until the moment of birth. People don't like to talk about abortion. This is an issue that hits close to home for those people on the fence, because they have to step forward and take a side if you push them, and you say until the moment of birth. And in these cases, I don't suggest that you hammer them too hard. Just leave it out there and let it kind of simmer, because any person with a proper moral compass will come to the conclusion that, of course, that is not only a crime but a sin. And it'll put that doubt in their minds. Let them know, remind them all the time what kind of party the Democrat Party and the liberal wing of our political bird, what they are and what they stand for. Now we're having trouble, of course, with law enforcement, but we also have some trouble in. I had another one up here that I wanted to share with you. Yes. Okay. We'll stay with law enforcement for just a second, then we're going to go back to the military. Well, it seems here that cop, what is his name? Lieutenant Michael Byrd, the Capitol Police lieutenant who killed the unarmed Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt. Do you remember that? Remember all that? Well, he was cleared of criminal wrongdoing. And you know what? They didn't even interview him. Oh, they said that they wanted to ask him some questions. And he said, no, I'm not going to answer your questions. Well, I mean, what else can you do, right? What else can you do? I mean, he says, I'm not going to answer your questions. So they said, well, okay, nothing we can do now, right? I guess we'll just clear you of any wrongdoing. Well, of course, that's the way I handled all of my investigations. When I had a suspect, and I said, oh, well, now, tell me about this, and if they said, well, I'm not going to say anything, I would automatically go, oh, okay, well, you're cleared, you can go, right? Interesting. That's what they've done up here with the Capitol Police. Lieutenant Michael Byrd shot Ashley Babbitt unarmed, and he's cleared. He's just cleared. You never even heard a whole bunch of news about him, did you? I bet you that 80% of you didn't even know his name, and I bet you 50% of you didn't even know Ashley Babbitt's name. Those are a couple of names you might want to remember, and be able to put that into a conversation with your friends tomorrow. Now we get to the Army. If things are going terribly here inside, at least we have a great military who can protect us from all the meanies in the world, right? Well, apparently things aren't going so well there, because, you see, good people don't want to serve under a moron in chief like we have right now, right? The dunce in charge, just like they didn't want to serve under Obama, just like they didn't want to serve under Clinton, just like they didn't want to serve under Jimmy Carter. I see a pattern. Do you? Yeah. The Democrats destroy our military and then misuse them in more ways than you can imagine. The good people leave. I mean, it's amazing. I personally, and probably you have too, have known more people than I can count who left short of retirement simply because they refused to serve under the kind of moron that occasionally gets elected into the White House. They will not do it. So our military, instead of having a consistency that's important. It's always like this, up and down and up and down. Every time a Democrat gets in, whew, down in a ditch. Next time a Republican gets back in, they got to build it back up. Okay, Democrat, whew, that's the way it is. Well, now the Army is offering bonuses for recruits. This isn't retention bonuses. This isn't like, hey, you've done a great job for the last 5 years, and I know you're getting out to go pursue a career, but we'd like to keep you, so we want to give you this bonus. No, this is for the U.S. Army. I'll read this here. This is an AP story. Yes, AP News. The U.S. Army, for the first time, is offering a maximum enlistment bonus of $50,000 to highly skilled recruits who join for 6 years. Well, okay. Highly skilled recruits. Most of the people who have been in, I have not been in. Most of the people who have been in recently in the last 20 years will tell you that the standard for highly skilled has kind of taken a nosedive. So what they might consider as highly skilled, I don't know. Maybe just anybody who will show up. I'm not sure. I know that's not true, but they're offering $50,000. That tells you what shape our military is in. So if we're in this kind of shape, internally and externally, what kind of a country is that? And why do we want to save that country? And why is that country worth saving? Now, you might say, well, are you saying that we shouldn't try to save the country? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that we need, like I've said, a reversion. We need to fight to take this thing back to the way that it should have been. Now, what point is that? There was never in a time in our history that it's been perfect. I understand that, and you understand that. But we have to take this back, and it starts politically. It's not about the military. It's not about the police. It's all politics, because that's where the policies come from. Politics, policies. That's where it comes from. What we're coming up now is a critical election. I hear people talk all the time about this is the most important election in our lifetime. Well, I think that probably every election that they've said that about over the last 10 or 20 years is probably right. And that simply indicates that things are getting worse and worse and worse, and they're getting so bad that every election actually is the most important election in our lifetime, because it can get so much worse. Look at the difference between now and only 18 months ago. Okay. This is what we need to talk about, and we need to talk about it more. We need to talk about this with our friends, with our neighbors, with our coworkers, and we need to arm ourselves with this information. And so that's why I ask, do what you can, like this, share this video with people, subscribe to the channel, make a comment, share your thoughts with us here. And if you'd like to support the channel, go and join us over on Patreon. I always put the link down here that you can join on Patreon. It's just $1. I have one level, $1 a month, and you can help support this and keep us going with what we're doing here. If you want to, there are people, and thank you very much, who have pledged more than that. I don't ask for more than that, but for those who feel like they want to, thank you very much. That's how you become a part of the fight. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm sure there's going to be more craziness tomorrow. This being a late night, I'm moving and talking kind of slow, but tomorrow I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to cover. I hate, that's almost something that I hate to say. It's too bad that we know that tomorrow there's going to be a lot more craziness to cover. But let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments down here on what I talked about. Remember these things when you go through your day tomorrow. Try to remember them. Bring them up in conversation with your friends. Let's start stirring this pot, because, hey, it's the only pot we've got, right? until the whole thing goes kaboom, and we don't want that to happen. So you all have a good day. Remember, as we say, this country needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it, and we hope that you'll be a part of it with us. You all have a good day and a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.